Welcome to the Balanced Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Matt Southam. Here, we delve into candid conversations with entrepreneurs, exploring both their business journey and their secrets to maintaining mental well-being. As we navigate the balance of ambition and inner peace, I hope you find insights, inspiration, and invaluable takeaways in every episode. Thank you for joining us. Sophie, welcome to the show today. I want to start by asking you about some of the early years, because I sometimes feel like our business journey is almost influenced and certainly impacted on those early sort of school years and what you do after school, whether it's further education or into jobs. I feel, we're at a time when we're developing lots and, those influences often stay with us. So talk to me about your early years, sort of school times.
Sure. So I didn't go straight into business or accounting. I did a degree in sociology and philosophy at Concordia in Montreal, in Canada. And after which I went backpacking. Europe. And I actually met my British husband there at a hostel in Prague. And that's how I ended up in the UK. My first attempt job in the UK was in an accounts department. I didn't really know anything about accounts. I didn't know the difference between purchase ledger and sales ledger, even though it sounds obvious. I mean, it was really from the bottom up, and I did that for a year or two, and then I thought, actually, I'm okay at this. I'll start doing AAT, which is the Accounting Association of Accounting Technicians. So I did that at night school at Guildford College, while being an accounts assistant. And once I did that, I thought, actually, if I'm going to do this, I might as well go the whole hog called chartered accountant. So then I did my CIMA qualification at night, which took about 4 years. So I guess with AAT and CIMA, it was about 7 years post-grad altogether to become an accountant. You don't really want to change job after that. But
it's quite a commitment.
But while I was studying, I was lucky enough to have an employer who paid for my course. That was really helpful and supportive.
Yeah.
And as I did that, I moved my way up, management jobs, and got my first finance director job in New York, and then came back to London. And I mean, that's the early years. I think I absolutely don't regret having a degree in sociology and philosophy. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
I loved it. And actually, it gives you I think just an extra perspective on the world, and business is just another society.
Yeah, very true, very true. And did you find backpacking also? I think that helps. Just opens our eyes to everything else that goes on in the world. Do you think that's helped as well? I mean, obviously you met a husband, so it was.
Yeah. I mean, when I left, I think I had 1,000 Canadian dollars in my account, and I thought that would last me a year, and it lasted me about a month of going out every night. So then, okay. You need to do a bit of work.
Yeah.
So I always worked while I was backpacking to make my way across Europe. So yeah. But yeah, you meet people from all around the world. I mean, no doubt it opens your eyes at different things.
Yeah. So then you're fully qualified. You've spent a lot of time studying. You're working for someone. When did it progress from that into starting your own business?
So I was finance director of an advertising agency, and I had my 2 children back to back, 11 months apart. So I had 2 back-to-back maternity leaves. And yeah, that role came to an end. And previous to that, I always looked for roles. When I interviewed, I never really had, I usually got it. Like, I never really had too much of a problem. Maybe the market was different then too, but I think after having a bit of time off and saying you've been on mat leave, I think it did have, you could see, sometimes meetings with business and you'd see the twinkle leave and think,
Okay.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I got a contract job for about 3 months, and it was, there was a longish commute. Everyone was, no one had kids. Everyone was young. They'd schedule meetings for 8 p.m. And it's like, I have 2 babies at home, and I'm about to get on a train for now. Like it just wasn't feasible.
No.
So I thought, right, I'm going to, set up, work for myself. So I started to, I started researching, smaller businesses that were more local to me. I'm in Twickenham, so, Richmond, Hammersmith, Twickenham, Kingston. And I would have a coffee, find them on LinkedIn, trying to meet. This is 9 years ago. Have a coffee with them and say, look, I've just started up. I'm in the area. Do you need a finance director? And they'd say, oh, we never had one. What do they do? And I'd tell them what a finance director does. And they said, that's great. We can use with one of those. How much do they cost? And I'd tell them and they would laugh. We can't pay that. Like, oh, okay. And then one business owner said to me, what's your day rate? I never thought of a day rate before. I could afford a day a week. And I never, back then, kind of fractional CFOs, no one really did it. And I said, oh no, I don't do that. I need something 4 days, but then I met someone else who said something similar. I thought, okay, maybe this is a thing. Actually, I could do this. I can do a portfolio. So I set up Wright CFO as a company. And in the first year, it was just me, like freelancing as a part-time FD/CFO for startups and small businesses. It was a year after that I was having lunch with a CFO friend of mine who needed some work. And I said, hey, I'm getting good at this. I'm saying no to work. What if I found you some work and took a commission? Would that be okay? She said, yes. Oh, I did. That's a scalable business. So it's kind of gone from there. There's been a lot of changes along the way. Things have changed in 9 years.
Yeah. Can I just rewind very quickly? I remember you were saying you were first going for those interviews and you'd gone back from maternity leave and there were people having meetings who didn't have kids and suddenly it was like 8 p.m. and things like that. Can I ask you, do you think women get a sort of unfair brunt of that? Because, equally, I have kids. So do you think people would look at me in the same, if you're a parent, you're a parent, whether you're male or female, you've got the responsibility of children, but do you feel women get that unfair look maybe of, oh, maybe they're going to get called away, or is that what you felt at that time?
I mean, it's certainly what I felt at the time. I think these days, you're right, everyone co-parent, is the norm. And it depends who your employer is, and if they recognize that and they're in that place in life themselves, then they get it. And, I think people also, post-COVID, people working very different, just extremely different than before.
Massively.
So many people just, go into the office 1 or 2 days and they're, and they could swap if they have to be home because someone's sick or, I think it's easier for families actually now.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. And I asked that question just because I've never experienced that, but I hear this story, from people returning back to work, from women returning back to work, how they're viewed slightly differently. And at first I was thinking, oh, what do you mean? But actually I've heard this story several times. And I'm hoping that we're in a much better position than we were even 10 years ago and things have changed.
I think definitely. Yeah.
And I think that's just that change in attitude. And you talk about the work from home and going into the office. Certainly, I often say COVID, while it was an absolutely awful time, actually one benefit is it did bring forward a change in working practices very quickly and proved actually you can work from home. You can work from almost anywhere. You can have meetings online, and it doesn't take away, the enjoyment of working with other people and sharing experiences and even going to meetings and building up relationships with people. But it has changed the way we work. And I think, I hope that a lot of those stuffy attitudes, as we might call them, have moved on.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree.
So you've got one person who you're sort of passing work to, taking a commission, so that they weren't as such employed, so you still didn't have a company.
I found her some work as kind of part-time CFO, and I was doing a lot of marketing for myself, and I'd start to have a few finance people come to me and say, "Oh, what are you doing here? I know I'm thinking of doing something. Can I join or whatever?" And so it's grown, and I'm a part-time CFO myself, so I've always split between doing the CFO work with startups myself, and also then putting other people in businesses. So through the years, I mean, even just the term fractional CFO is relatively new, but the idea is the same. It's grown. It's becoming a bit flooded. There's a lot of people who want to work this way now, and also a lot of people are accepting that you can have contractors work in your business, and they're just as trustworthy as employees. When I first started, I spent a lot of time trying to convince business owners that you could trust a finance person that wasn't part of it wasn't embedded in your business. And now that's not the case anymore. I think a lot of even investors often insist on them having a contractual CFO because someone has to watch where the money goes. But I mean, so it's increasing. There's a lot of people and doing this now, and actually kind of this month I'm actually changed the model again, and I've just to differentiate ourselves from other people, and I almost became a bit of a recruiter, which was an accident. Like I'm not a CFO, I didn't mean to be a recruiter. and so now we've established I've got there's 8 of us, so myself and 7 other CFOs that I've worked with for years and are trusted, and I know them really well. And it's a fractional CFO firm now. It's us, and we narrowed down where we specialize, creative, media, technology, and not-for-profit, and we've got a specialist in each one. And it's a way of just being a little bit, for one, to be a little different than all these thousands of recruiters out there trying to place part-time CFO jobs, and rather than CVs, I know these people and they represent the brand, and
I think having a really clear definition on who it is you work with best, that's your ideal client. Actually, it really helps your marketing. It really helps that sort of sales process of saying, look, we work with people just like you, rather than just, we can work with anyone. So sometimes niching down actually makes it a much easier sort of road to getting in with a company, because you can be really specific. So completely agree with that. So how many years in are you now then? And we're talking about that journey.
9.
You are 9 years in, of course. Yes. That makes sense. So what have you learned? Obviously you were always good at the finances, I'd assume, but what part of your business have you learned the most in that was different from working for other people?
Well, I mean, I guess, I've become reasonably good at marketing. I mean, and I came from a marketing background, as in industry, in advertising, but still, I think I learned a lot. And in the first few years, I wasted some money. I thought, that'll be good. I'll have an article in the Times. That didn't do anything. All these, you get approached by a lot of people they give you 1 million viewers. Oh, great. That doesn't work. So I had a stand at the business show at the Excel. That was a waste of money. So there was a lot of things like that. I just thought, I learned what doesn't work for sure. And I learned what does. So
that's often finding out what doesn't work is as important as finding out what does.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, or also, kind of like reaching out to people to see if they, even just the term startup now, we help startups, but it'd be good if you've been around for a year and you've started to trade.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I feel like I was approaching all these people, and actually I was having meetings with, I don't know, someone who's just graduated from university with an idea and no money, and they want to be paid, they want to pay an equity of nothing. Well, okay,
Yeah.
I better define who we can help here.
Yeah, that's really, really key. Yeah, because we hear the word startup, and actually, probably different people think of different things. You might think startup,
Yeah,
and actually, this company is sort of 10 people. They've got a product. They're running, but they're in the first couple of years. Or you might think startup of someone who's gone, look, I'm just about to leave my job. I've got 1 month saving, and I'm starting up a business, and that's a completely different
yeah,
type of startup.
yeah,
Whether they're going to get funding or whether they're actually going to need the service that you're offering. Because I guess, do you find that it depends what level they are? So do you find that people who are already running actually benefit from your services much more because they need to be focused on where the
yeah.
money is? Yeah.
Yeah, it helps because in a few years of running, usually the CEO or founder has been doing everything themselves,
Yeah.
including financial modeling and budgeting and pricing, and they're not necessarily good at it. They're good at their craft or whatever it is that they went into business for,
Yeah.
but this is not what they went in for. Yeah, it's good to get someone who knows this kind of stuff, but on the back of their hand,
Yeah.
and can say, actually, what, you're losing money on those two things, but you're making loads on this, so sell more of that.
Yeah.
That kind of someone who's just been there, or how to look at, I don't know, if someone's trying to raise money, or look at what financials are you showing investors, and it might look like something out of Dragon's Den, where it's like, you're worth $1 billion. No, you're not, that kind of thing. And just, create a more convincing story and help, it'll help them reach their goals to have a professional in there.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that, most businesses, even small businesses, are a little bit like a five-a-side football team from the fact you need different players. You need different, there's no point just having a striker if actually you haven't got a goalie. You've got to have all of these areas. And I often see, finance is one of the first things I sort of outsource because it's not my cup of tea. It's not what gets me up in the morning, but equally it's incredibly important. So get the best
Yep.
person you can to look after that for you. And the same with marketing, and the same with sort of HR and all these other bits. Get the best people in that you can and do what you're best at. And I think often small business owners, starting up, you are doing everything, but you soon realize which parts you're really, really good at, which bits you really enjoy, and the other bits, as quickly as possible, get someone in who's much better at it than you. And that doesn't, when I say get someone in, that doesn't exactly like you're running your business. It doesn't have to be you employ them. It could be you use these outside services.
Yeah. And you use what you can afford.
Yeah.
We've got clients that have someone working for them 3 days a week, but some half a day to half a day a month, because that's what they want. That's all they can afford. But actually, it's still extremely useful. They're available at the end of the phone. They're at the leadership meeting, offering an opinion and an external view. Even though just a little bit is useful. But yeah, and then it's very low risk because I don't know what kind of terms other people have, but we're a week's notice. Like there's no no fear of redundancy if you didn't get the next year.
No, often outsourcing, I think, is I can see, I work in marketing, and even the agency model very much is adapting for some businesses. There are some great agencies still with lots of employed staff in big offices, and they're actually doing fantastic work. But there's equally lots of agencies, more like my own, where actually we bring in experts to work on certain projects when needed. And actually, this allows us to grow, but also take on larger jobs, but without that, it consists or constant cost of having people employed. Actually, we're just going to bring in the best people as possible. And I can see the agency model of almost being a couple of people plus lots of freelancers working on projects benefits actually people who want to work from home, benefit from people who want to be a freelancer and set some of their own terms and have, I say flexibility. I think we'll talk about this in a minute. Running your own business, lots of people think it brings you flexibility, and it sort of does, but equally, certainly at the start, you're always working. You're always there. You've actually lost some of that flexibility. So actually talk to me about that. How have you found growing the business and bringing up young children? I've got a daughter who's 9 as well, so I know what that process is like. How was it for you?
Yeah. So I mean, as you say, you are always working, but I mean, it is useful, even just, for instance, today one of my children is sick, and I could still work. I don't have to. It's not a case of having to leave the office and say, "Oh, no. Sorry, I've got it." That's gone. So, so that's useful. But I mean, the other thing is the flexibility. Because you're not. It doesn't have to be 9 to 5. I mean, you do work a 9 to 5 and extra, but it doesn't have to be that. No. So, I do school pickup and help with homework and do bedtime. Sometimes after the kids' bedtime, a laptop comes open again.
Yeah.
It's an hour's work. And I don't mind because it's my business. So it doesn't feel like, slaving away. It doesn't feel like that. No. Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely flexibility. And, one of the differences of when I had a full-time job before I started this, I mean, I always felt guilty. I would feel guilty having a dentist appointment. I always felt guilty having. I'd try. Can you make it at 8 a.m. so I'm not 10 minutes late? They'll think I'm interviewing somewhere, or and that's just gone. All of that is gone.
Yeah, I definitely think the one of the next routes is that flexible working times, and I've had this discussion with a few people that 9 to 5. In a way, I like 9 to 5 because I know when it's appropriate to call other people, email other people, disturb other people, and the same for them to me. I don't want a phone call at 8 o'clock at night. But equally, the hours that I actually producing client work, actually, if I want to do that in the evening because I've taken the morning off to go to something at one of the kids' school, well, that's fine. It doesn't matter when it's delivered. So there is that balance between that sort of 9 to 5 maybe being contactable, but equally when you're actually doing the work and taking time off, it needs to be a bit of work on that flexibility. So,
There's also, I mean, sometimes I kind of like doing a little bit of work at night just because it's quiet.
Yeah.
And no one's calling and there's no emails pinging and I could just concentrate on what I'm doing and without any interruptions.
Yeah.
Which is
whether it's evening or mornings, and I quite like an early morning start, that hour without any distractions from anyone, you can just get so much done. I saw a quote, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was basically saying that your email inbox is basically a to-do list set by other people. And I was like, actually, because we all have our to-do list, what's important to us, what we need to get done. And then we've got this other to-do list that other people are populating. It's like sort of a bit of a crazy situation. But sometimes working during that time, deep work, you're not being disturbed. And it's quite hard to do that during the day unless you're really, really disciplined to turn everything off and say, I'm working, do not disturb me unless this is, life or death situation. But so what do you do outside of work? How do you switch off? Because you said you're always working, but how do you switch off?
I don't know. Friday night family movie night. Which is, I mean, that sounds, it is something that we do, that we all, and my kids have phones now, so we all are not allowed a device during the movie, and
Yeah.
we take turns who chooses it, and it has to be something that 2 out of the 4 of us have not seen before.
Okay. Yeah.
So my husband and I keep bringing up movies from, they're like, oh, it's so old fashioned. I'm going to movies from the 90s or whatever. They're like, oh, not again.
I've really enjoyed that. I've
Yeah.
recently been sharing some of my sort of childhood movies with my
Yeah.
children because they're at that age where they're into a film, and it's great. Although some of them are maybe not as good as I remember them as a child, but there
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
still
No,
some
that
classics.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. It is nice though, because everyone switches off,
Yeah.
and, it's something we can all enjoy together. It's nice.
Yeah, I really like that. Some sort of film where we're disconnected from those devices that actually take so much of their time. I go to the gym, but I'd like to take up a bit more of a sport. I used to play a bit of squash or something like that because I'd like to do a sport which you can't hold a phone in your hand while doing, because I
Yes.
sort of think you are completely disconnected. You want something that you physically cannot be
Yeah.
near a device.
Rowing. Go near
Rowing.
water.
Rowing, that's a great one. But it's we do need to disconnect from the devices. So you have the Friday night. Do you find, what do you do just for you though? Because and do you need to? Because I know that for myself, love my family, love my kids, but actually sometimes I need some time that's just for me. I am still myself. I'm still Matt. And sometimes I need to take time, and often for me, it's getting up before everyone else is up, and I just have half hour in the morning. It's not very long, but I make a coffee, I read a bit of a book, and it's
Mhm.
whatever then happens for the rest of the day. I've had that. I've had a bit of my own
Yeah.
time.
I mean, I probably have that when we have a dog as well. So, and he's a spaniel, so he takes a lot of walking.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I suppose that is when I have my alone time, is when I'm
yeah.
walking him. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
getting outside actually is really important. I think,
Yes.
fresh air,
We
out for a
not-
walk, it's fantastic for your sort of mental health, and just
Yes.
to balance you. Because otherwise we do spend a lot of our days just staring at screens, and then in the evenings we basically
Yeah.
stare at a smaller screen.
Right.
And it's
Right. And then we're all in the same building the whole day. So
yeah.
one was posing.
I want to finish off today just by asking you, and especially with your finance background, someone thinking of starting up a business. Again, probably in that first year, they might not be looking for an external CFO. But what advice would you give to someone starting a business that you think they need to get right from the start?
So they do need to know their numbers. They need to know what they're spending, how much they need do they have to make an investment themselves in, they need whatever it is, if they need a product or whatever, to get going, and a plan. When they need a business plan, that's what they need. They need a business plan, and it doesn't. It's not going to be followed to the T, and things are going to change, and but it's a plan. And if you just go blind, it's not going to work, and you're going to find cash is starting to disappear, or you're running out, or have your target, have your what are your revenue streams, how much are you going to charge, are you going to make a profit on them, and then know what are you going to pay yourself, can you pay yourself, when do you start paying yourself. It is good to and as you say, that of course that you're not going to want a CFO right away, exactly, but I mean, for example, right, CFO do have a startup special that we're just starting, which is like 5 hours a month, and just like retainer. But you could sit with someone and just go, let's just work out how you're going to do this, how you're going to plan, and sit for an hour and just get some advice. It's really useful to get advice. Even things like, you don't have to register for VAT until you're over a threshold, but actually if all your purchases are up front, register for VAT right away, you'll get the VAT back. There's certain things like that. You could just
which actually will probably save you potentially, depending on what what they're buying, might have saved you the money that you've spent getting a CFO in.
Right. I mean, 20% of your laptop. a desk, whatever, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is good to get some kind of finance help to start with. And even if it's just to set you off in the right direction, and keep in contact with them once a month or something. I think it's really useful.
Yeah, I think so many small businesses suffer from cash flow, and it's probably because of maybe a lack of understanding of, the business, I say business money or business finance. I certainly had that shift between personal money and business money. And because I'm so used to sort of getting, a salary, and I knew what I was paid per hour as such. And then when you start working, you think, oh, if I can make that, that'd be great. But you realize actually, well, I'm not working all of those hours. And now I've actually got to pay for everything as well. So actually my hourly rate needs to be this. And then you're suddenly like, well, hang on a minute, to do that work, I've got to sit a meeting, and it's all the working hours that actually you start to understand how to be profitable.
Yes. Yeah. And knowing how to price yourself and what to charge for what is really useful, because you need to make a profit, but you also need to be, market price, and you need to, and if those don't align, then something's wrong, or whatever it is you're making is too expensive, that kind of stuff to work it out. So it's good
understanding your numbers. I referenced this guy in a podcast I did recently, but Scott, who was on the podcast a few weeks back, one of his big things was know your numbers. And he very much was saying that, often people straight away just go, okay, what are my competitors charging? I'll charge that. But there might not be an understanding of what your expenses are. How much are they paying on rent? How much are you paying on rent? What does it work? You've got to look at the whole picture to understand, actually, is this viable? And it's certainly for companies with a number of different income streams. I've seen it myself, where one income stream is doing really well, and almost the other one's being subsidized by that.
Yes.
And actually, if they wanted to
happen.
more money, stop selling that. And it seems crazy to suddenly stop doing something, make more money. But actually, unless you understand your numbers, you don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I've learned a lot, and hopefully everyone listening has too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.